Let me invite our two vibrant speakers, Ms. Amrita Choudhury. She's a MAG member at UN IGF, Vice Chair at APrIGF, which stands for Asia Pacific Regional Internet Governance Forum, which is a regional internet governance forum just like Youth IGF India. And she's also Vice Chair of APRALO. And the second speaker, Mr. Anupam Agrawal, he is the chair at IIFON and convener at IEC JTC1 SC7 AG3 Software and Systems Engineering. And these two speakers are also our very vibrant members of the advisory committee who has been, helping us with a lot of aspects in
I believe there's a network issue from Alan's end. So I would like to request Ms. Amrita to please proceed with the session. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Sahita, and hi, everyone. Great to be here. You heard a lot from Anya right now. We want this session to be very interactive. And I have Anupam here. You can see him on the screen. So what we would be doing is we'd like to have more interaction with all of you when we discuss this. You know more about this might be than us, and we would like to hear your views because we only should not be the ones who are kind of saying how the internet in the future should look like. Before we start, I think Anupam, we would like to ask them a question, right? And we'll have Ihita who will help us. So Ihita, can we have the first question? We are supposed to be discussing Internet Governance 101, but we'd like to hear from you as to what you feel, what does the term Internet Governance mean to you? Ihita, can you come in and just share how we want to do this?
Yes, so our idea for today's session is we would like your inputs and accordingly we'd like to navigate the discussion today. So my colleague Shraddhanjali will be sharing the screen and there are a bunch of questions there. This platform is called Mentimeter platform. For those of you not aware of the platform, we'll share the question, we'll share a code with you. We would request you to go to the link that we share and enter the code. So you can see the question and enter 2 of your inputs on the question. Like Amrita just mentioned, it is what according to you is internet governance. Shraddhanjali, I request you to share the screen.
Yeah, and it is anonymous. So don't worry, go to Mentimeter, menti.com and use the code. Can you also type it into the chat? Okay, so when you hear the word internet governance, what comes to your mind, by the time, and we don't give you much time. We want it to be fast, as in, in 2 minutes, if you can say, and till that time, Anupam, do you want to say something to anyone by the time we see what?
So take a deep breath and then whatever comes to your mind first in terms of internet governance and what is important for you, whether internet governance is important or governance is important. What are you thinking? Should internet be used for governance? Is that what internet governance means? Or the governance of internet is what we are going to discuss. So think
what comes to your mind, when you hear the word internet governance, what comes to your mind? No raising hands, you have to key it in. So this is something which you need to do, and then we will see. It's www.menti.com and the code is 486665556. So let's see who are the fast fingers here. Can we go to the website and see what's happening? Or will you see the cloud here itself, Ihita? How is it done?
We'll see here.
We'll see the cloud here itself.
Yeah, let's see the cloud. I think everyone's seen the question. Okay, rules governing internet, rules to follow, free from censorship, great, internet privacy. Let's see more. They are just 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, rules made for supervision, accessibility, wow, policies of internet, rules, accessibility, great. We are seeing 141 participants, and I can just see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, let's.
They are thinking, Amrita, don't worry. They are thinking now.
Next, in the next question, which we have later, not now, I guess you'll be much more faster because we could. So it's Nitya, www.menti.com. You go there and then you use the code 486665556. I hope this helps. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of things coming, but we also have 40 minutes and we need to get going. I guess, Anupam, we close the lid here, but next time we want to see more. Let it go on, as in let people keep coming here and placing what they think. So Anupam, let me go to you. Like we asked, everyone here, what comes to their mind when they hear internet governance, and we can see so many words. Now, I'd like to ask you, as in, why do you think it was necessary to discuss internet governance, and how did it all start?
So, Amrita, this is, if you look at the Mentimeter results, you will see that what I can see possibly is that the rules word is gaining a lot of importance here. Okay, rules from rules to follow, rules, better rules. So somewhere or the other, that has been at the core of the discussion of why internet governance is required. Now, if you look at, let us step back by few decades. Okay, if we really want to go into the depth of internet governance, why it was required, we'll have to go a little bit in history, and possibly in the time frame where neither you or me or most people in this call would not have been even born to witness what was happening. So in that decade of the 1970s and 80s, there was one critical thing which was happening, was that internet was getting incubated in DARPA project of US, and it led to formation of one of the key organizations in internet governance debate, which is IETF in 1986. So if you look at the formation of IETF, the way internet was being managed, it was managed by a very wide variety of individuals based on a consensus driven model. The decision making involved a lot of people together, and the broad idea was that the code which is there should run, and that's how IETF was formed. So this led to something which you will find that there was one John Perry Barlow who suddenly came and declared that internet is extra-national and there is not going to be any government which is going to be involved into this particular process of internet management and governance. So this was the first time when government started taking note that there is something which is happening where they need to be involved. And now, again, if you look into the history of 94, 95, then there was a huge discussion because US Department of Defense outsourced the entire work of management of domain names and protocols to a company called Network Solutions, which essentially was the foundation for creating, the compromise was the creation of a body called ICANN. Now from 70s, we have moved till early 2000. And here what we are finding that there is a World Summit on Information Society, which is happening in 2003. And if you look at the documents of WSIS in 2003, you will find that the foundation was led by creation of an working group on internet governance. That is the first time in 2003 where it was felt that we do need something which will allow, first, the government also to participate in this process. Second, the internet is too decentralized in nature. There are lot many people acting in lot many ways, in lot many dimensions. So there is some kind of control mechanism which is required, and that is at the heart of this entire internet governance initiation way back in 2003. But the fantastic work which was done by this working group on internet governance as part of WSIS, what we call WSIS 2003, was that they laid down a very sweeping statement of what internet governance possibly can be. And I think that's what is important, Amrita, to take note, that the definition which was proposed by this working group in 2003, which was finally adopted in 2005 by United Nations, is what is at the basis of internet governance. And the core idea was that governments wanted to be part of this entire decision-making process of how internet is going to be managed. I'll stop here, Amrita, and if you have any further questions, please ask.
No, I think we are good in this. Internet is becoming so encompassing today, and there is a lot more things which are coming on, in this particular arena, that there was a need felt that, there is a need for discussion. Now, coming to it, I think I would share that there are various places where these discussions are happening, because internet is used by everyone. As Anupam mentioned, that, we started with the technical community, the military, the US military, for example, first, but it was driven by the technical community. So it was very, I would say, mutual, it was more on mutual relationship, mutual understanding and respect that internet was flowing. That is why it's more open, interoperable. There were no bound rules at that point of time. But later, when business came into it and the governments came into it, and everyone started using, all the communities across the globe came to use it, then it was felt that yes, there are issues which needs to be managed, and that's why the WSIS summit happened, and the IGF was born, the Internet Governance Forum, as one of the outcomes of WSIS summit, wherein the discussions on internet, it was more of a platform where each stakeholder could come in equal footing and discuss issues on internet governance, digital policy, and also take back to their communities. So if we look at the different platforms where internet governance is discussed, as in initially it was the ICANN, where you have the domain names and the numbers being discussed. You also had the regional internet registries like APNIC in our region. Sunny is going to speak next, so you will hear more. Then you had private entities who were participating, and the technical community. You have different intergovernmental organizations who are discussing it. For example, you have places like the WTO, the WIPO, UNESCO, ITU. They are all discussing these aspects. You also have these discussions happening in, various domain name registrar points. You have discussions at internet exchange points by internet associations, by CSERT. So if you look at the landscape today, almost everywhere, even if they are not internet governance centric, these discussions are happening. For example, if you look at even UNCTAD today, when they are having their meetings, it started 2 days ago, though it is more on MSMEs, this particular discussion, but internet is being discussed, the laws are being discussed, competition is being discussed. So if you look at it, it is not just ICANN, Internet Society, IETF, which Anupam mentioned to you, which were the core places where the discussions happened, or the Internet Governance Forum, but it is also spreading to different platforms. For example, even civil society have a lot of, forums in which these discussions happen. Access Now has a particular event which is held, Mozilla Fest is held. So the discussions are happening in many places. It is happening in the UNHCR. So the players are increasing because discussions are happening. Internet has become so intertwined in our lives, especially after the pandemic. And out here, I think if you look at the national internet governance forums like the India IGF, or even Youth IGF today is discussing. So it's becoming all pervasive, Anupam. So, I think there are actors, and I think everyone is getting intertwined in it. And that's how I look at it. So Anupam, I would like to come to India now. And I would like to ask you from the Indian context, how, can you share what is happening, from the Indian context on internet governance?
So the biggest thing which has happened this year itself is we have laid down the foundation of India Internet Governance Forum, and this is what is going to change how internet governance is going to be discussed in India in the future. IIGF has been incubated this is the 4th edition, but it has been incubated in 2018. But at the national level, the key development has been the incubation of IIGF, and that is where the core discussions are going to happen. But at a macro level, I'll highlight 3 or 4 developments which are happening. Okay. Now, when you're trying to intervene in a policy related to internet, the fundamental behind it is somewhere very closely aligned with the technology. So what has happened in last few years is that there is a very good group on technical specialists which has been formed for making their presence felt, for contribution in IETF. So this is what this community was not existing in India. So that is what has happened, where an IETF related community has been formed in India. And that is going to change how the discussions and the discourse of internet governance is going to happen in India, is going to change. The second is that there is a huge focus from Government of India on DNS. Now, whatever is being said in terms of the societal side of internet, the human side of internet, the core of internet remains the technology, which was not the focus from the government. So that has changed very drastically in last 3-4 years. And in fact, a project on internet measurements is being done by MIT along with STPI. As India Internet Foundation, we are very closely aligned with it. But apart from that fact, this focus on internet measurement and to see that how internet can be improved for the masses, that is again going to change how the policy discourse of internet governance is going to happen in India. The third change which I have seen from very close quarters is in 2003 we had just 3 copies of root servers in India. Now today, in 15 years or 18 years, you are seeing that there are more than 36 copies of root servers in India. Just alone, STPI is hosting around 4 copies of LRoot instance in India. Okay, total we are having 5 copies of LRoot. Now, what is this signifying is that India is moving very strongly ahead in various different aspects of internet governance. So earlier, if you would have seen, then there was no institutional participation from India. There was no community which was going forward. And now that is all suddenly changing with the involvement of the government, NICSI coming forward in and trying to be the incubator of India IGF, organizations and communities related to IETF, which are now pushing forward what are the relevant use cases for India. And then very sparsely populated, but people from the rural India are also participating in this internet governance debates. Now, if you look in the Calcutta chapter of Internet Society, you will see that we do have members from very far-flung areas where possibly internet is not as easy as it is in Kolkata. But that's what is changing at the ground level. And at the top, I think the policy discourse is going to be very positively impacted by what is happening at the ground.
Thanks, Anupam. As in, yes, those are important developments at the infrastructure and the technical side, but I'm sure all of you have heard that India is working on the data protection bill, which was personal data protection, and now we are going into, the non-personal data part is also going to be discussed. There is a lot of discussions if you look at on the algorithms, the competition laws, for example, are being discussed. Intermediary, the role of intermediary, hate speech, fake news, the rights of people, security versus privacy, which is being discussed. However, I would not call it, versus. They go hand in hand. There's a lot of discussion about, building trust on the internet, which is happening because we need trust on the internet. It has to be safe. On one hand, law enforcement needs access for information. However, we as users need encryption. We need safety in, our communication. We don't want to be surveilled. Simultaneously, my rights should not be infringed by someone. So those are active discussions which are going on in India also, like, for example, hate speech. We have issues of internet shutdown. So what could be the possible solutions when there is an issue? Rather than shutting it down, how can we mitigate those issues without shutting down the internet and stopping a lifeline for people? So those are certain things perhaps we need to deliberate, and youth actually needs to be part, because you are using internet for everything. And now with the pandemic, everything's gone online. Your studies, your college, etc. If it is not safe, you cannot use a trusted quality service, then it is a challenge. Similarly, there are issues of more than 40% of India is still not connected. How do we connect the rest of the people? Should community networks be used? What are the different ways in which it can be used? Satellites is something which is being discussed. Elon Musk is saying he'll be investing a lot. So will we be able to reach out to the last person? So those are certain things. Having internet in the language of choice is something which is important, not as a lip service, but if people prefer. And I think it is not only access, but meaningful access, which is important. How do I use it? How can it be safe even for a woman online and she's not trolled? Or so those are certain things, I think, which affects you and me, and that's why we discuss all these over the internet. And that's how the discussions are going, because we Indians are, even from the government or even from private players or everyone wants India to be connected. We want to be a digital power, and that is why we are interested in internet governance. So that's there, but I think we have less of time. So I think what we could do now is ask a question, and the question would be, if we can have the Mentimeter. We have spoken a lot, so we would like to ask, what do you think is the role of lawyers in the internet governance space? The same, the code is different. Go to menti.com and use the code 43420057. In case anyone has not understood anything, or you're thinking we are going fast, or we are going too slow, or we are boring, please let us know, so then we can modify it. So there are many lawyers, and that is what I heard from Ahita. So what do you think is the role of lawyers in internet governance discussion? Let's have the points rolling here. Because as you see, Anupam also mentioned, there is a role for different players. Governments have a role, technical community has a role, private players have a role, you and me have a role somehow. Okay, bridging the interest, watching over cybercrime, policy legislation. Yes, let's see, we have 142 people. Even if you're not lawyer, you can also say, or you can say nothing if you want. You don't have to be smart.
Amrita, I think there is Devian Pal Bansal. So he has got some very interesting comments. So we may want to ask him towards the end to explain.
Yeah. And I also promised him I will get him the VISIS, definition. We'll take that. And
Amrita, should I put it in the chat, the VISIS definition?
Yeah. Thank you.
What is the role of lawyers in IG discussion? Privacy and protection.
I'm muted. Privacy and protection represent group. Okay. We go to the next question. If you are slow, we can't help it. So we go to the next stakeholder group. As in, there are many, but we've just taken two to see. Can we go to the next question, Ahita? What is the role of... So we have the next question coming. You will have a different number here, but you can still keep on doing that. We can see the cloud later. What is the role of the technical? What is the role of the technical community in IG debates? Anupam spoke a lot about it.
But yeah. I somehow you guys have managed not to project it till now.
Yeah, I can see myself.
Yes, this is my favorite part.
Okay, Keep clicking. It's 43420057, same code. What do you think is the role of technical community in IG discussion?
Oh,
Nothing? Zero? Being a geek? Let's see. Easy access to technology, great. And don'ts. Beware of do's and don'ts, okay? Pushing for security, give constructive suggestion, identify vulnerability, fighting out the attacks. Great, great. What is it? Minimization. Okay. Other malfunction, finding out attacks, filter the hate speech. Now, I have a problem if technical community starts filtering hate speech, because they may, it can also, what can be considered by one as hate speech may not be. But anyways, we get it. Yeah.
But from the technical community, I don't think we are interested in filtering anything. So at least from the group.
As in, you can have more logical algorithms built. That is something which can be done. But I would not want someone sitting somewhere to kind of, okay, I think let it go on, and please keep it coming. We have so Anupam, I want so Ihita, I'll come to you first. Since this is the Youth IGF, what do you think is the role of youth in IG discussions? And you have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much, Amrita. So let me start off with talking about how I got into internet governance. I was, I think, in my second or third year of BTech in 2016, where the first step I took internet governance was through the Next Gen program of ICANN. And it was a lot to take in. There was just so many topics, so much going on, so many different stakeholders, talking about such critical issues. After which, I decided, since it's a very broad area, and then it is important for you to find out where you come in, right? So I started looking for fellowships and opportunities that help me understand more about this domain. And in this period, I got familiarized with the various topics that are there in India, the topics of discussions in India and globally. And then I started looking for a track where, I can contribute my best. And how can I contribute? Who are the stakeholders, relevant stakeholders I can engage with, who will help me in contributing? So I would say that this is where I realized through this process that youth have a very, very important role when it comes to the internet governance discussions. Because like Amrita mentioned in her discussion now, that young people are very active users of the internet. And the current generation, when you look at them, you have kids, who are 10-year-old and 15-year-old using internet every day for their studying or for any kind of social networking. And then with COVID, of course, we have a lot of the community, a lot of our communities have come online in terms of to run their businesses, to stay in touch with people. So as young people, there are some challenges that we also face, right? And there are also some skill sets that we need to build. So as young people, when you're using the internet, you are, let us say, talking to somebody. You can see a lot of hate online, or if you could see a lot of discrimination online, right? And anything that makes you uncomfortable, or something that makes you something that makes your society or your community uncomfortable. It's important for you to speak. The way that the internet is regulated, what are the standards and how it's governed, affects you and your society very closely, knowingly or unknowingly. So it's important for you to step in and talk about what affects us. Now, there are lots of challenges that within young people also that we face, with respect to not having the skill sets to navigate the internet securely, and also making the most of the platform that we have, right? Then also in terms of not knowing, when we talk about the internet, people usually think, okay, we're talking about the critical internet infrastructure, but it's just not that, because there's so many things around the policies and how it's being regulated, that it is important for us to know about the current situation and scenario of the governance of the internet in our country and globally. And to do this, and there's also this barrier that we have come across, working as Youth IGF and engaging young people in the past 3 years with respect to culture and with respect to languages. There are lots of people who are not comfortable with let's say, speaking in English or understanding English. And we at Youth IGF, we actually, our mission over the time is to try and bring in and make the platform as inclusive as possible. So as YIGF and as a member of the youth community of India, I want to make the internet as inclusive as possible and as secure as possible, and also build capacity in young people so they can securely navigate the internet without hurting themselves and hurting the other people who are also using the platform. So in this regard, I think young people have a very, very important role to play in internet governance discussions. And there are tremendous opportunities out there for you to first learn, get mentored, connect with the relevant stakeholders, understand the topics of interest for you, and also then eventually get into the space, contribute. When you speak, then people know how the internet should be governed, right? So that is all what I would like to say. Amrita, over to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So Anupam, when we talk about roles, I'd like you to summarize quickly in 2-3 minutes. What do you think is the overall, the role of different stakeholders in this debate?
So the role of different stakeholders, Amrita, depends from what constituency they are coming. So we had a question on the technical, we had a question on the lawyers, we had a question in Mentimeter on the technical community. Now, if within the technical community also, if you will look from the prism of telecommunication specialist, they are more oriented towards the technical infrastructure, which Ahita also mentioned, that which is at the core, but not necessarily the entire thing of internet governance. But if you look from the technical community of computer specialists or programming specialists, they are more focused on the XML side of the things, the markup languages, the Java and others, which make the internet what we are currently using currently. And if you look from the communication specialists, they are more trying to see that the entire packet of internet moves from one place to another seamlessly. So even within the technical community, there are various spatial groups who look things differently on internet. Now, if you look at from the human rights or perspectives, the way they look at the entire thing is from the terms of privacy, freedom of expression, or some other basic human rights. Now, we did have a question on lawyers. I think the lawyers primarily love to look at from the jurisdiction point of view, or to do some kind of dispute resolution. And that is from where they look at the internet governance debate. Now, one of the key stakeholders here are the politicians or the governments of the day. Now, they want to see internet governance in terms of what is threat to the overall population. Can education be improved by using internet? Can there be more governance of in terms of managing the civil infrastructure through internet? So that is the dimension which the politicians or the government would like to look at. And then there is a community of diplomats within the government who try to see that the country relevant protection of national interests are taken care of. So various stakeholder groups try to look at this entire thing in a very, very different way from the standpoint from where they are standing and what is their interest. Among all this, if we look at the RIRs, for us, the relevant RIR is APrIGF. So if we look at from their standpoint, the entire focus is that the allocation and registration of internet number resources is done properly, which I mean is IP address and AS numbers. So, and in the process, they also ensure that the community is maintained, the community comes together to take some policy decisions. So we do have different actors like IETF from the technical side, ICANN from the policy side of the domains and numbers, RIRs which are implementing them, W3C which is the XML side of it, and then governments and international agencies, and finally one community which we should not forget when we are discussing YIGF is the IGF itself. With 15 years, IGF has provided something which is a platform which is unparalleled. in the history of humankind, where truly multi-stakeholder discussions do happen. While people may complain that there is no formal outcome, but possibly we are reaching there. But an absolutely open forum for internet governance issues. Right. So that is again something which we also.
No, I think that's important, and that's a very important point. Since internet is used by everyone and it is looked at by every stakeholder in a different perspective, everyone's view has to be taken into consideration when a rule is formed, else it will never be nuanced. And what has worked in some country may not work in our country, or we may learn certain things which has worked somewhere and imbibe it. Simply like if there is a basic policy being made for people with accessibility issues, then you have to have the people with accessibility issues on the table. Both who are there in the, who are using, who are not using, because else you will not understand the perspective. Similarly, lawyers would be looking at it from one lens, technical community looks at it from a different lens, but if they do not sit together or give their opinion, you cannot have a balanced or a nuanced thing. Simply like, many times I would say rules are made for women with no woman on the table. Now, how do you make a rule for me when you don't know what I want? And that's where sometimes those issues come. So yes, there are different stakeholders, and all stakeholders' views, you necessarily may not agree to it, but at least respect it and try to understand the perspective is important. So we will go to the next section, and I was seeing some definitions flowing. I just wanted to say that while there are many definitions of internet governance which is used, but mostly the one which is accepted by many is the one which is enshrined in the WSIS forum, which says that all stakeholders are important. It's not the multilateral way in which government negotiations which is accepted. However, there is a trend these days of governments deciding things, moving away from the multi-stakeholder way. But I think that's also, something which is a concern for all of us, that internet governance discussions should not only be for member states to decide. Now we'll go to the next section, and we have the last question. And the question is, why is participation, you heard Ahita speak, but we want to hear from you. Why is participation of youth important in IG discussions? And it's the same Mentimeter, only you have to use is 486665556. I think it's the earlier code. Please. Yeah, Anupam, you wanted to say something?
No, I said yes, that's the earlier code.
So yes, why do you think you should participate? Let's see something coming. I'm seeing a blank screen. Are we all 40 plus like me? Or I don't think, or most of you belong to my age group. So I would suggest that you key it in. Else oldies like me will make decisions for you. Is anything coming up, Ahita and others in the Menti? Why should youth participate in internet governance?
Yes.
Okay, coordination, innovative ideas, tackle new challenges, and policy to be aware of rules. Okay. Why should you speak up? Why is your view important?
We have 5 people responded. Thank you so much for your response, but we need some more.
Yeah, we are 143. I'm feeling ashamed that you have been finding the session so boring that you're not even writing why you should be, as in why you should be here in IGF, Youth IGF, or why should. Okay, Rijul, I see you're done, but I would like to see others also doing. Is it a pain to use? Does having a centralized regulating body for the internet at the international level. It is not, Parthajit, it is not viable to have a centralized body because internet was not made centralized. It is a decentralized body and different actors are managing certain parts of it to ensure it works at the network layer, at the content layer, even at the infrastructure layer. So it's not possible to have a single body to do so. So many sovereigns do follow certain norms. For example, if India is using the names and numbers, it does adhere to ICANN rules or even the RIR rules. But what is important is that when it comes to jurisdiction issues, obviously the rule of the land holds, but most people go by these, you have cyber norms also, which are non-binding, but nation states agree to it. So there are things, there are treaty-based organizations through which they work, but we need to have more global acceptance, because if you're looking, there's a lot of geopolitics happening and there's a lot of polarization between. I would say the US-centric thought and the China-centric thought. Okay, so Anupam, we have about 15 minutes. We want to take a few questions. So if I summarize, you need to participate because you are the future. Whatever is being decided, you will be, facing the music in the times to come, I would say. It is you who are using the internet, so you should be there to share your views. If someone is saying, for example, I'm just taking it as an example, but please don't take it in a different way. For example, if a rule is made that children can only play, because of gaming addiction, children can only play games 2 hours in a week on a Saturday, Sunday, at a particular period of time, that is infringing the rights of youth and children. Rather, having them actually, creating more awareness would have been better. As in, I personally don't see how it will stop addiction, but rules are being framed in certain countries in this way. So that is important. That is why you need to be in the table, that you are aware, you contribute, and you help to share what you want on the internet. Not all your aspirations will be taken, but there are certain things which would actually be also accepted. So I would say you should participate. You may not be able to participate in any things, but just start getting into these platforms. For example, Anya spoke about the IGF, register, hear what people are saying. Many things may go over the head, many things you may resonate. Go to IETF if you are interested in technical communities, hear what the IETF discussions are, or join the mailing list, attend the ICANN meetings if possible. These are all open meetings. You can, and nowadays everything is online. So attend these meetings, hear more. As in, from CCI, we do have a capacity building newsletter which we publish, and we'll be happy to share it with you every month on what's happening in IG. Similarly, India's School of Internet Governance has an annual internet governance school where 3 or 4 days we have of capacity building. Similarly, there are more such things. So look at those avenues, try to join those avenues, and see how you can kind of help yourself and do what you want to do. You don't have to do all 10 things. So before we do our concluding, I think we'll take a few questions. You can raise your hand. We don't want everyone doing a chorus here. It's not a chorus. So you can raise your hand and we'll take your questions. So let's see who raises your hand. It could be a question, it could be a comment, but it should be quick. So who's the first one to raise the hand? Someone wanted us to unmute yourself. Divya, was it you?
Yeah, Amrita, it was Divya.
Divyan, yes, Divyan, yes. You want to speak, and one participant only once. Okay, we will give, yes.
Good morning.
Divyan, please.
Ma'am, am I audible?
A little louder would be good.
Yeah.
So is it fine now?
Much better, yeah.
Ma'am, first of all, I would like to congratulate for organizing this event. I just wanted to make a comment upon when I think you or some other speaker was asking that why do we need internet governance and why youth as a stakeholder are important. So I believe that like more than 50% of the consumers of internet social media are youth. And I believe that we need to make informed consents while using any social media apps. For example, in today's trendy world, we have a concept known as advertising marketing, wherein we just see a recommendation and we follow it up. We see one reel and then we hang up on it for hours. So we as youth of any other country or India, let's say India even, we are uninformed about these concepts. So I believe a literacy about the internet would be helpful, and we do not need a kind of authoritative administration for internet, but I believe that internet is in itself a democracy. So we need a democratic governance framework for internet and its people.
Yes, I completely agree with you, Devan. I am sorry I have to stop you because we have 3 more hands and we have a clock ticking. But I agree, as in whatever we are using, for example, today, without our consent, our information should not be shared with anyone or used as it is being used by many platforms today. So Rohan, over to you, then Parthajeet and Pranay, and you need to make it.
Hi, I just have a two-part question. One is, how much of internet governance is really an international issue, considering that most of it is now being looked at the end effect as to how rights are there. So we again go into like issues which are much more older, like human rights, freedom of expression is all there from the start, and that now seems to be more of a state perspective. So the first part is, of course, one, can we really have like a different internet governance issue? And secondly, are we really moving away from the decentralization and again back to sovereigns having a much more upper hand? The reason I ask is that while IGF and all are places where the discussions are happening, the fact that areas like the WTO and the other like the taxation issues are happening, which only have states. So is it really decentralized anymore?
So that's a very valid question, Rohan. Issues of human rights, etc., are old, but it is manifesting in various different ways today. For example, if you look at the Pegasus, where is the rights of people? Without consent, people are being snooped. So these issues are human-centric issues, have been old, but the manifestations are new. So it needs to be spoken. It is being spoken at multilateral levels, but it is also many of the multilateral platforms are again opening up to, if not participation directly of civil society or other participants, but it is some have opened up, some are to some extent giving an informer kind observer kind of a status. So they are moving. If you're saying that we are moving away from decentralization, yes, there is a concern, because while taxation, international taxation, etc., has to be discussed at multilateral forums, because member states have to, you and I cannot decide, cannot say that, okay, we will follow this tax. This is a multilateral thing. But I think even in the taxation, there were views of other communities taken at some point of time. But yes, there has to be, even if the governments sign it, the views of the other players, the stakeholders, should be taken when things are decided. But yes, there is because of how things are geopolitically, nation states are getting in very aggressively into everything, and that's a concern. Parthajeet, your question.
Good morning. My question is that India has a lot of hackers and a lot of scammers. They do not happen to have a formal education, but they have a certain skill in technology. So where do you think the government has gone wrong that we can hire them for our own for pro-national purpose rather than engaging in criminal activities? Is it a fault in the policy level, or is it an execution of policy problem?
It's a very interesting question. And I will ask, I'll say something and then Anupam can, respond to it. First of all, any country, hackers are there in any country, and many are not formally educated, into hacking. There are some countries, for example, it is alleged, for example, the Revil hackers were backed by Russia, or so those are certain things which even nation states are supporting. It is heard that even India uses hackers. It is alleged by our neighbors also that we have hacked into certain systems. When we are talking about protecting national security, many times the term national security is very vague. Are we looking at, protecting our, what would I say, our territory? Are we trying to snoop into our own citizens in the interest of national security, in the name of national security? Do we have the right? Espionage actually is not legal. There are spies. Spying is, I would say, it is accepted by all member states, but espionage on other territory nation states is not legal. Everyone does it, but it is not legal. What India government does, we are not in a position to say, but I have heard there are Indian, cyber security groups use ethical hackers or whichever hackers to protect Indian infrastructure. But how they use, what they use and what they don't, I don't know. How you can make everyone, every place has bad actors too, as in how will you stop it with moving everyone to one place is a different, I don't know. It's a very tricky thing. I don't think it's a solution, but Anupam, you would want to add.
I think that's a very, very, very good question. Okay. Because this is at the heart of the entire debate which is happening here. So what is different in India and what is difference in Israel? Okay, if you look at the Computer Act of Israel, it very specifically says that every organization there has to get their networks penetration tested every year and as many times they can do. Okay, so if you are a small organization in Israel, you approach a big organization and say that we want to do the network penetration testing of your organization, you will be more than welcome. So the policy decision there that the organizations will have to get their networks tested multiple times in a year is something which is creating very small organizations to get that capacity built in, and you will see that so many global companies, popular companies are coming out of that particular country itself. Okay, whereas if you look at our act, Information Technology Act here, there is a concept of cyber trespassing. If you happen to get into the network of anyone, even of your neighbor, without getting a consent from them, then that will fall in the somewhere in section 43 of the IT Act, and you can be charged of something called cyber trespassing, which keeps you away from even testing your home network. Now that's a fundamental policy change, but assume in a country like India, which has got so many people, so many technical specialists, suddenly if everybody can get the access to go and test or do the penetration testing of any network which is available to them, that is also going to create a chaos from that standpoint. So I think
we have 3 minutes, so we
I think that's a policy decision which needs more discussion around it.
It's a tricky one, but very interesting. Pranay, we'll take your question. Rohan, you asked first. Quick question, and Himang, quick question. No more. I think we can take one more. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am. So can I ask the question or what?
Yes, please. Quickly.
Yes, ma'am. So I have a question that due to this COVID, the entire scenario of Indian education system has changed. For last 2 years, I'm attending classes from my phone on online mode. So I have a question that why can't our education system make development in online education rather than opening colleges and classes in offline manner? Because every time we open colleges and classes, the COVID cases increase, and these cases are like the new variant and all. Even now, so every 2 or 3 months, people are opening.
So I will just stop you here, Pranay. I get your question. Sorry, as in the reason why is because we just have 2 minutes. So the education systems are trying to upgrade their infrastructure to have more online education. However, there are people who do not have devices like you and I do, and they need to go for physical education. Physical education is important not only for the people who don't have that kind of devices, internet connectivity, etc., but also to build your interpersonal skills. Certain things you can't get online. I have seen children from low income groups, and they have a challenge. For the last 1.5 years, they have not been educated, even if they have a mobile. because it's not compatible. So let's not get into it, but yes, more needs to be done. I think Anupam and I have
shouldn't
to
that be
end the session.
optional? Like whoever want to join the
So
class can join, and whoever is comfortable with the phone can attend them.
Yeah, so I'll just, we are not here, we can't make those decisions. I don't work in the education system, nor does Anupam, but yes, your point is valid. I'm sure we will go towards it, but it will not be an either or, it will be both. I think we will have to end the session. We are at the top of the hour. I think Anupam and I enjoyed ourselves. You can be in touch with us. We'll put in our email IDs here. Anupam, do you want to say any last words? Anupam,
just the fact that internet governance is a very, very important dimension. While internet itself is decentralized in nature, internet governance provides that platform that its basic nature remains intact. Okay. Otherwise, the concern which was raised earlier that we are moving towards centralization is what is going to happen. And if we look at the future of internet governance, this is what is one of the biggest risks. The fragmentation of the internet itself is the biggest risk, and only the internet governance space in which we are currently today can save this entire internet what we are
right.
looking.
So participate, be an active voice, and keep participating in various forums. Bye from us. You have another interesting session now. We are around. If you have any queries, put it into the chat.